ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगाद्विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्यमाना त्वया जुष्टानुगमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदथे सुवीराः त्वया जुष्ट ऋषिर्भवति देवी त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वत्र विनो न मेधे मेधां महीन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विनावुभावा धत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती सा मां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषत स्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा बिन्वमाना सा मां मेधा सुप्रतीकाजुषन्ताम् मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मय्यग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om Sri Sai Ram. Loving pranams are the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagawan. Today, it is indeed a great blessing and honor for me to once again invite you all to this divine satsang on the Vedas, the very foundation of Indian culture and spirituality, which happens to be the 24th episode under the Lakshya series being organized by Sri Satya Sai Samyukta Shruti Shreni of Sri Satya Sai Seva organization. Today we have with us a very great soul, a pious person who has exemplified himself through his sacrifice and living to share his precious knowledge on Bhagavad Gita, to bring home the essence of Vedic messages that rejuvenates and rekindles in us the importance of Indian culture and spirituality. He is none other than Swami Yajnadharananda. Few words on Swami Yajnadharananda. Swami Yajnadharananda is a monk of Sri Ramakrishna Mission, who started his formal spiritual journey way back in 1997 from Sri Ramakrishna Math, Chennai, a branch of Sri Ramakrishna Mission. He served in various branch centers of Sri Ramakrishna Order in West Bengal, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and Meghalaya in different capacities. In August 2021, he was appointed as the head of the Jammu branch of Sri Ramakrishna Mission, and he is continuing to serve there till date. Today, we are indeed lucky to have such a great personality to generously share his rich learnings from Bhagavad Gita to drive home the message as how Vedas have become the foundation for Indian culture and spirituality. With this, I hand over to Swami Yajnadharananda. Jai Sai Ram.
श्रुतं मे गोपाय
ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ओम्। नमस्ते। आज इस प्रतिष्ठित मंच से बोलने का जो सौभाग्य हमें प्राप्त हुआ है, जो निमंत्रण प्राप्त हुआ था उसमें एक विषय तो दिया ही गया है, परंतु एक और बात कही गई थी कि यह जो व्याख्यान होगा यह हिंदी और इंग्लिश में मिला जुला कर दिया जाए। हालांकि किसी एक भाषा में बोलने से अधिक सुविधा होती, परंतु अधिकतर दर्शकों या श्रोताओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए यदि दोनों भाषाओं की आवश्यकता है तो निश्चित रूप से हम ऐसा करने का प्रयास करेंगे। विषय की तरफ यदि हम देखें तो आज का जो विषय है वह है भगवद गीता का संदेश। दिस इज़ रियली वेरी इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ ग्रेट प्लेजर that this series is being organized for young students of Sri Satya Sai Sanyukta Shruti Shreni. I think this is the name. But what is important that some effort is being made to bring our young people on the platform of spirituality. At this juncture, when we know there are so many things and even media houses are trying to divert young people towards the path of destruction, ऐसे में यदि कोई ऐसा प्रयास करता है कि हमारे यंग लोगों को हमारी गौरवशाली परंपरा से, इतिहास से, संस्कृति से, आध्यात्मिकता से अवगत कराया जाए, तो यह सचमुच सौभाग्य की ही बात कही जाएगी। और ऐसे किसी प्रयास में सम्मिलित होना सचमुच हमारे लिए भी एक सौभाग्य की ही बात है। बात जहाँ तक भगवद गीता की है तो कुछ सामान्य सी बातें भले आप लोगों को पता होगी, बट स्टिल वी वुड लाइक टू रिपीट इट। वी नो इन इंडिया वी हैव टू ग्रेट एपिक्स, रामायण एंड महाभारत. Mahabharata again divided in many chapters, and among these chapters one important chapter is called Bhishma Parva. In this Bhishma Parva we get Bhagavad Gita. What we call Bhagavad Gita is just a small portion of Bhishma Parva, and Bhishma Parva itself is a small portion of the whole of Mahabharata. So this is what we know about Bhagavad Gita that it was preached by Sri Krishna to Arjuna. There are 700 shloks, and the compilation of these 700 shloks has made so much impact on our history, on our collective mentality, that the whole human psyche, the whole of Indian human psyche has been developed on the line of Bhagavad Gita. As such, if we talk about important or the main scripture of Hinduism, it may be a confusing question, because we know in different religions they have only one single book. For example, in Islam there is Quran, in Christianity there is Bible, and like that in other scriptures, in other religions also we see there is an important scripture. But what about Hinduism, or more appropriately I would like to call it Sanatana Dharma? So in Sanatana Dharma there is no one single scripture which can be put claim as the whole authority on Hinduism. But we know the building blocks of Hinduism have been taken from what we call Prasthanatrayi. What is this Prasthanatrayi? So Brahma Sutra, Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. These three are collectively called Prasthanatrayi, and out of these three, Brahma Sutra is very difficult to understand. Upanishad also, unless we have proper guru or proper guidance, it is difficult to understand Upanishads also. Bhagavad Gita is more or less very common. Even few years back we could see that perhaps each household used to have a copy of Bhagavad Gita. Even now in many Indian homes we can find a copy of Bhagavad Gita. It's a different thing whether people read it or not, whether they understand it or not, but keeping Bhagavad Gita in house, it is still in vogue. So Bhagavad Gita has got so much of popularity. On a broad scale, in very broad sense, we can say that Bhagavad Gita itself makes a synonym of Hinduism. Of course, there are many scriptures, and in different contexts, different scriptures are required, but the popularity of Bhagavad Gita is immense. And that's why when we talk about the message of Bhagavad Gita, this again is a very difficult proposition, because throughout the history we see there have been many acharyas, many great people, many even common people, intellectuals. Everyone has tried to understand Bhagavad Gita in his or her own way, and they have tried to interpret also Bhagavad Gita in their own way. Now when we see the message of Bhagavad Gita from the point of view of different acharyas, different intellectuals, different other people, even foreigners have written on Bhagavad Gita. So it seems that there are so many messages coming out of Bhagavad Gita, because as I told, everyone tries to understand and interpret Gita in his own way. तो भगवद गीता का एक कोई सेंट्रल मैसेज जो कि यूनिवर्सल होगा, जो सभी को स्वीकार्य होगा, ऐसा कहना बहुत मुश्किल है. What we will try to do today while talking about the message of Bhagavad Gita, we will try to understand it in such a way that it can become useful for all the people, all the common people, all ordinary people, and especially to young people who are associated with this platform. Now, before we go in depth, let us understand the background of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, we all know olden times. I am talking about Mahabharata time. Dhritarashtra was the king of Hastinapur, though legally and according to social system and norms of that time, Pandu was actually the king, and the son of Pandu were legally they had to rule over Hastinapur. But Dhritarashtra, he was blind, he himself was not able to rule, but somehow he wanted his own son to acquire the throne. And that's why we all know that story, so I am not going in details. But ultimately, Pandavas were sent to exile, and after many years spending in jungle and different places, they came back to Hastinapur and demanded their kingdom. Now, Duryodhan, the son of Dhritarashtra, was not ready to part with his kingdom. So he said that unless they means Pandava, unless they fight a war, I will not give even an inch of my, what he considered his kingdom. So he was not ready to part with even a single inch of his kingdom, and that became a flashpoint, and ultimately the war of Mahabharata became inevitable. This is the background we know. इस भूमिका में जब युद्ध प्रारंभ होने जाता है, और यह बात ध्यान रखना योग्य है कि पांडव भी जब वनवास में थे तब उन्होंने युद्ध की पूरी तैयारी की थी, परंतु बहुत वर्षों की तैयारी के पश्चात जब युद्ध प्रारंभ होने का समय आता है, ठीक उसी क्षण में अर्जुन के मन में कुछ दुर्बलता आ जाती है, और इस दुर्बलता के चलते अर्जुन कहता है कि मैं युद्ध नहीं लड़ूंगा. This was the backdrop, this was the background when Sri Krishna tried to give some suggestions to Arjuna, and at the end of these suggestions Arjun somehow became ready to fight war. This in brief is the story, or this in brief is the background of Bhagavad Gita. So what we understand from this, Arjun, as per the rules of that time, as per his own duty, he was to fight this war. He was not fighting for his own selfishness. Though he wanted kingdom, that's a different thing, but it was not a selfish motive. So when Arjun tried to go away, to run away from war, it was Sri Krishna who tried to make him understand. And then ultimately, with these suggestions, when Arjun became ready to fight war, Bhagavad Gita ends. One very simple thing we can conclude from this whole story is that Bhagavad Gita tells us that everyone has to do his or her own duty. जिसे हम संस्कृत में या हिंदी में स्वधर्म कहते हैं, उस स्वधर्म का आचरण करना ही भगवद गीता का मूल संदेश है, ऐसा कहा जा सकता है. Now this is very very important to understand, especially in modern age when there are different point of views. Right from young age, people are confronted with various type of conflicting ideas. एक तरफ मटेरियलिज्म है, एक तरफ स्पिरिचुअलिटी है, और ख़ासकर यंग लोगों के सामने जब यह समस्या आती है, जब उन्हें आध्यात्मिक होने की प्रेरणा यदि प्राप्त होती है, तो उन्हें समझ में नहीं आता कि उन्हें करना क्या है. जब आप आध्यात्मिक होना चाहते हैं तो पहला प्रश्न जो हमारे मन में आता है, या पहला विचार जो हमारे मन में आता है, कि हमें सब कुछ छोड़कर कहीं चले जाने की आवश्यकता है. यह जो चले जाने की आवश्यकता है, यह एक भ्रांत धारणा है, यह एक भूल धारणा है. आध्यात्मिकता कहीं भी हमें यह नहीं सिखाती कि हमें अपना कार्य छोड़कर, या हम जहाँ पर है उसे छोड़कर वनों में, जंगलों में या किसी निर्जन स्थान में जाने की आवश्यकता है. हम जहाँ हैं, जिस परिस्थिति में है, जो काम कर रहे हैं, उस काम के करते हुए भी हम आध्यात्मिक हो सकते हैं. This is a very loud message I think Bhagavad Gita has given us. Through Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has given us. You see, just imagine what can be a more horrible situation, what can be a more chaotic situation than a place of war. So much disturbance, so much noise. People are ready to kill one another. And in this situation, if this message has been given by Sri Krishna that we have to do our duty, that means in our own life also, each one of us is fighting our own Mahabharata. We have different conflicts, we have different problems, and all these problems and conflicts are the part of our own Mahabharata, and our own Jivatma, or what we call ourselves as individual human being. If we take this individual human being as Arjuna, then the message of Bhagavad Gita is very clear that we have to fight this war. We are not supposed to go away. We are not supposed to shun our duty. This is what very very important thing to understand. तो जो जहाँ भी है, एक स्टूडेंट यदि है, वो स्टूडेंट यदि आज पढ़ाई करना उसका कर्तव्य है, ज्ञान प्राप्त करना उसका कर्तव्य है, तो यही उसके लिए युद्ध क्षेत्र है. इससे भागकर आध्यात्मिकता ग्रहण नहीं की जा सकती. स्टूडेंट को अपना काम करना है. कोई नौकरी पेशा व्यक्ति है, वह अपनी नौकरी करते हुए, कोई यदि व्यवसाय करता है वह अपना व्यवसाय करते हुए, कोई यदि समाज कार्य करता है सामाजिक कार्य करते हुए, कोई राजनेता भी है वह राजनीति करते हुए, कोई सामान्य गृहिणी है वह अपना घर का सारा काम करते हुए भी आध्यात्मिक हो सकते हैं. जो जहाँ है, जिसका जो कर्तव्य है और व्हाट वी कॉल इमीडिएट ड्यूटी, उस हमारे कर्तव्य को जो हमारे हाथ में है, जिसे करने की अभी आवश्यकता है, उस कर्तव्य को करते हुए भी हम आध्यात्मिक हो सकते हैं. आध्यात्मिक होने के लिए हमें और कहीं दूर जाने की या अपना काम छोड़कर भागने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. दिस इज़ वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट लेसन दैट भगवद गीता गिव्स अस. नाउ वन कैन क्वेश्चन कि whether it's my own imagination or really Sri Krishna has told this thing. So you see, as I told in the beginning, Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and among these 18 chapters, each chapter has its own importance. But as a conclusion, we can say that the last chapter, that is 18th chapter, is the conclusion of whole Bhagavad Gita. और जहाँ पूरी भगवद गीता का सारांश, उसका जो निचोड़ है, उसका जो सार तत्व है, वह भगवान श्री कृष्ण 18वें अध्याय में बहुत से श्लोकों के माध्यम से देते हैं. उसमें से एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण श्लोक है 18वें चैप्टर का 45वां नंबर का श्लोक है, जिसमें भगवान कहते हैं स्वे स्वे कर्मण अभिरतः संसिद्धिम लभते नरः. दिस स्टेटमेंट इटसेल्फ इज, वी कैन से, द एसेंस ऑफ भगवद गीता, वेयर भगवान क्लियरली से स्वे स्वे कर्मण्य अभिरतः संसिद्धिम लभते नरः. स्वे स्वे कर्मणि अभिरतः, अपने अपने काम में लगा हुआ मनुष्य क्या कर लेता है? संसिद्धिम लभते, यानी सिद्धि को प्राप्त करता है. सिद्धि मीन्स gets perfection in life, or what we can say the ultimate goal of human life or our spiritual goal that we can obtain. How? By doing our own duty. This is clear statement. There is no ambiguity about it. Sri Krishna clearly says स्वे स्वे कर्मणि अभिरतः, अपने अपने काम में लगा हुआ व्यक्ति उस कार्य के माध्यम से ही वह सिद्धि को प्राप्त कर सकता है, परफेक्शन को प्राप्त कर सकता है. और इसलिए ये जो स्टेटमेंट कुछ समय पहले हमने दिया है, या ये जो सारांश बताने की कोशिश की कि जो जहाँ है, छात्र अपनी जगह पर, नौकरी पेशा व्यक्ति अपनी जगह पर, व्यवसाय करने वाला व्यक्ति अपनी जगह पर, जो जहाँ है उस स्थान से ही वह आध्यात्मिकता को अपने जीवन में प्रवेश करा सकता है. वह उस स्थान पर ही आध्यात्मिक हो सकता है. उस कार्य को छोड़कर और कहीं जाने की आवश्यकता नहीं. बहुत बार हम अपने काम से बचना चाहते हैं. उस कमजोरी को या उस आलस्य को या उस दुर्बलता को हम आध्यात्मिकता का नाम देते हैं, परंतु भगवान ऐसा स्पष्ट रूप से कहते हैं कि ऐसा करने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं. स्वे स्वे कर्मणि, जो जहाँ है वहीं से वह आध्यात्मिकता को प्राप्त कर सकता है, आध्यात्मिकता के उच्च से उच्च सोपान तक पहुंच सकता है, सिद्धि प्राप्त कर सकता है, परफेक्ट हो सकता है, अपने जीवन का लक्ष्य जो है उसे हासिल कर सकता है. अब थोड़ा हम इसे थोड़ा यदि और दूसरे उदाहरण से देखें, हम जानते हैं कि भगवद गीता जो है वह महाभारत का एक अंश है, और उस महाभारत में ही हम एक बहुत सुंदर कहानी देखते हैं. कहानी ऐसी है कि एक युवा व्यक्ति, बहुत बचपन से ही उसे आध्यात्मिक प्रेरणा मिली होगी, वह सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ कर जंगल में चला जाता है और कुछ वर्षों तक तपस्या करता है. तपस्या करते करते वह युवक बन जाता है, और एक दिन यह युवा तपस्वी जब ध्यान में बैठा हुआ था, तो जिस पेड़ के नीचे वह बैठा था उस पेड़ पर दो पक्षी आपस में झगड़ रहे थे. उनके झगड़ने के शब्द से इस युवा तपस्वी के ध्यान में कुछ बाधा कुछ विघ्न हुआ, इसलिए इसने क्रोध के साथ, उसे थोड़ा गुस्सा आया, उस गुस्से के साथ, क्रोध के साथ उसने ऊपर इन पक्षियों की ओर देखा। अब इसके क्रोध के कारण क्या हुआ कि दोनों पक्षी जलकर और नीचे गिरकर मर जाते हैं। ये युवा सन्यासी था, इस घटना को देखकर आश्चर्यचकित तो हुआ, परंतु साथ ही उसके मन में खुशी भी हुई कि उसकी तपस्या के कारण उसमें इतनी शक्ति प्राप्त हो गई थी कि वह यदि किसी की ओर गुस्से से देख भी ले तो वह व्यक्ति जलकर नष्ट हो सकता है। अब कुछ समय बाद इसे भूख लगती है, और जैसा कि प्राचीन भारत में परंपरा थी, अभी भी कुछ हद तक है कि सन्यासी अपनी उदर पूर्ति के लिए गाँव में भिक्षा के लिए जाया करते थे। तो यह सन्यासी भी नज़दीक के गांव में भिक्षा के लिए जाता है और एक द्वार पर खड़ा होकर कहता है, भवती भिक्षाम देहि। अंदर से एक महिला की आवाज़ आती है कि बेटा थोड़ी देर रुको, मैं अभी व्यस्त हूँ। अब इस सन्यासी को थोड़ा मन में गुस्सा आने लगा कि यह महिला मुझे रोकने के लिए कह रही है, इसे मेरी आध्यात्मिक शक्ति का अभी तक पता नहीं है कि मैं यदि क्रोध से देख भी लूँ तो इस महिला का विनाश हो सकता है। सन्यासी ऐसा मन में सोच ही रहा था कि अंदर से फिर उस महिला की आवाज़ आती है और वह कहती है, बेटा यहाँ कोई जंगल का पक्षी नहीं है कि तुम अपने क्रोध से उसे जला दोगे। अब तो यह सन्यासी बड़े आश्चर्य में पड़ गया। जो बात वह मन में सोच रहा था वह इस महिला को कैसे पता चली। तो कुछ समय बाद जब वह महिला भिक्षा लेकर आती है, इसने भिक्षा लेना तो दूर, यह उस महिला से प्रार्थना करता है कि माँ तुम्हें कैसे पता चला कि मैं मन में क्या सोच रहा था। वह महिला कहती है, देखो मैं तो जंगल में नहीं गई, मैंने तो कोई तपस्या नहीं की, परंतु मैं एक गृहिणी हूँ, घर का सारा काम मन लगा कर करती हूँ। और अभी भी जब तुम भिक्षा लेने आए थे तब चूँकि मेरे पति बीमार है इसलिए मैं पति की सेवा में थी, तो उनका कार्य, उनकी सेवा समाप्त करने के पश्चात मैं तुम्हें भिक्षा दूंगी, इस वजह से मैंने कहा था थोड़ी देर तुम प्रतीक्षा करो। तो इससे ज़्यादा तो मैंने और कोई जीवन में साधना नहीं की है, और यदि तुम्हें इससे अधिक कुछ समझना है तो तुम एक काम करो, समीप के गाँव में एक व्याध रहता है, उस व्याध से तुम्हें और अधिक शिक्षा मिल सकती है। अब ये सन्यासी के मन में बड़ा कौतूहल होता है कि यह महिला बिना मेरे कुछ बोले जब मेरे मन की बात समझ गई और फिर यह कहती है कि उस व्याध से मुझे कुछ शिक्षा मिल सकती है, तो क्यों न उस व्याध के पास जाया जाए। परंतु मन में एक प्रकार की द्विधा भी थी, क्योंकि व्याध हम जानते हैं ऐसे व्यक्ति को कहते हैं जो पशु पक्षियों को मारता है और उनका मांस बेचकर और अपनी आजीविका चलाता है। तो उसके मन में यह भी कहीं न कहीं विचार आया कि ऐसा घृणित कार्य करने वाला व्यक्ति वह मुझे क्या शिक्षा दे सकता है। परंतु फिर भी मन में कौतूहल तो था ही, तो वह समीप के गांव में जाता है और ढूंढते ढूंढते उस व्याध की दुकान के सामने जाकर खड़ा होता है और देखता है कि एक विशाल काय व्यक्ति, संभवतः काले रंग का व्यक्ति और बहुत मजबूत तो उसकी देह है, देखने में थोड़ा भयानक लगता है, और वह पशुओं का मांस काट रहा है और ग्राहकों को बेच रहा है। तो ये सन्यासी को मन में थोड़ी घृणा आती है, सोचता है कि व्हाट दिस पर्सन कैन टीच मी। अब सोच ही रहा था कि वो व्याध अचानक बोला कि आइए महात्मा जी, आपको क्या वो समीप के गांव की उस महिला ने भेजा है। तो अब तो यह सन्यासी और अधिक आश्चर्य में पड़ गया कि इस व्याध को कैसे पता चला कि मुझे उस महिला ने भेजा है। तो वह अपनी जिज्ञासा का निवारण करने के लिए कुछ समय तक प्रतीक्षा करता है। व्याध उसे कहता है कि आप थोड़ी प्रतीक्षा कीजिए, मैं अपना काम समाप्त कर लूँ, एंड देन वी विल गो होम एंड देयर वॉट एवर क्वेश्चंस यू हैव आई विल ट्राई टू आंसर। तो कुछ समय तक वह सन्यासी इंतज़ार करता है, फिर वह व्याध उसे लेकर अपने घर जाता है। घर जाकर इस सन्यासी को बैठने के लिए स्थान देता है, फिर वह खुद स्नान करता है, थोड़ी कुछ पूजा करता है, फिर अपने माता पिता की सेवा करता है और फिर इस सन्यासी के पास आकर कहता है कि अब कहिए आपको क्या पूछना है। और फिर उसके बाद दोनों में वार्तालाप होता है। फिर यह जो व्याध होता है यह कुछ उपदेश देता है। इसी उपदेश को व्याध गीता के नाम से जाना जाता है। हम भगवद गीता को तो जानते हैं, परंतु भगवद गीता के समान ही महाभारत में व्याध गीता का भी उल्लेख है। तो यह व्याध इतना उच्च प्रवृत्ति का आध्यात्मिक व्यक्ति था। जिस प्रकार कुछ आध्यात्मिक उपदेश श्री कृष्ण ने दिए थे और उन उपदेशों को हम भगवद गीता के नाम से जानते हैं, उसी प्रकार उस व्याध ने जो उपदेश दिए उसे व्याध गीता के नाम से जाना जाता है। तो हम समझ सकते हैं कि वह व्याध कितना उच्च प्रवृत्ति के, आध्यात्मिक प्रवृत्ति का व्यक्ति रहा होगा। नाउ इन दिस स्टोरी we are not to go in details whether this story is true or not. The message given by this story is that a simple lady doing her household chores, attending to all her duties sincerely, she can also attend to spiritual heights. Even a man who is killing animals, who is selling meat and somehow managing his family with this type of work, which is usually in Indian context this is considered a very abominable work, but still what the story tells that even a person doing such type of work can be highly spiritual. And how it becomes possible? Only because they were doing their duty very sincerely. Whatever came to their lot, they didn't try to shun that duty. They didn't run away from their assigned duty. They did it sincerely. And that's why when we understand Bhagavad Gita, especially the shloka I mentioned, that 45th shlok of 18th chapter where Bhagavan says, Sve Sve Karman Abhiratah Sansiddhim Labhate Nara, this is depicted by this story. And this is not an imaginary incident. Even in real life we see there have been hundreds and thousands of people in Indian history who did their simple task, who did their own duties, and through that they attain to perfection. So this is very, very important. This, in one way we can say, this is the central idea, this is the central message of Bhagavad Gita. By doing our duty we can attain to perfection. And in our context, you see, when we talk about God, in India, God has been interpreted in many ways, and there is of course concept of personal God. But when we talk of Advaita Vedanta says that there is something, some matter. Of course it's very wrong to call it matter, but to understand there is an element, there is something which has pervaded this whole world, which is in fact formed the whole world. You call it Brahma, you call it Atma, you give it some other name, but there is something out of which the whole world has come out. And though this whole world has come out of that single entity, still there is a lot which remains unmanifested. So this whole universe is pervaded by that element. Yatha pravritti bhutanam, ऐसा एक नेक्स्ट श्लोक जो है उसमें भगवान स्पष्ट रूप से कहते हैं कि स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च सिद्धिम विन्दति मानवः। वह जो एलिमेंट है, वह जो तत्व है जिससे इस जगत की सृष्टि हुई है, और वह तत्व जो पूरी सृष्टि में व्याप्त है, उस तत्व को यदि प्राप्त करना है तो कैसे प्राप्त कर सकते हैं? द वेरी नेक्स्ट श्लोक ऑफ भगवद गीता, दैट इज 46th श्लोक, सेज दैट स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च सिद्धिम विन्दति मानव। अपना काम करते हुए, और वह भी कैसे? स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च, वह जो है उसकी पूजा किस प्रकार से करते हुए? पूजा करने के लिए फूल चढ़ाना या चंदन और धूप अगरबत्ती दिखाना, इसका उल्लेख नहीं किया है। भगवान कहते स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च, वह जो अल्टीमेट रियलिटी है उसे अपने कार्य के माध्यम से, अपने कर्तव्य के माध्यम से उसकी पूजा करते हुए हम उस सिद्धि को प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। सो दिस टू श्लोकास, श्लोका नंबर 45 and 46, आई थिंक दे गिव दिस सेंट्रल मैसेज ऑफ भगवद गीता दैट बाय डूइंग आवर ओन ड्यूटी वी कैन अटेन टू perfection. This is in short. We can elaborate it, we can go still in more depth to understand this fact, but I would like to touch some few other points also, क्योंकि यदि यह हम समझ लेते हैं कि हमारा कर्तव्य करते हुए हम आध्यात्मिकता की ऊंचाई को प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। फिर भी एक व्यावहारिक प्रश्न आ ही सकता है कि जब हम अपना कर्तव्य करने जाते हैं तब भी तो बहुत सी समस्याएं आती है, तो उन समस्याओं का निराकरण कैसे करें, या हमारा कर्तव्य करते हुए हमें किन किन बातों को जानने की, किन बातों को समझने की आवश्यकता है। और इन कठिनाइयों की तरफ या इन डिटेल्स की तरफ जब हम देखते हैं तो I would like to draw your attention to the very first shloka of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You see, Bhagavad Gita opens with this shlok. We all know Dhritarashtra was blind and he could not see, so he didn't know when Mahabharata war started. He didn't know what was going on there. So he asked his minister, whose name was Sanjay. So Dhritarashtra asked Sanjay, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samavetayu Yutsavah Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. On the outset, this looks very simple shloka. Dhritarashtra is unable to see the outside world because he is born blind. Then he has curiosity to know what is going on that war field. So he asks Sanjay, Sanjay, tell me what is going on the field of war where people have assembled with an intention to fight war. But who are these people? Dhritarashtra uses two words which look very ordinary from outside. Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Mamakaha, yani my people, and Pandava, what they did in Kurukshetra, that I want to hear. Now you see, many a time our words give an insight in our personality. The whole war of Mahabharata that war became inevitable because of this attitude of Dhritarashtra. What Dhritarashtra says? Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva. My people and Pandava, what they did. You see, Pandava were also his own. Pandavas were the son of younger brother of Dhritarashtra. So they were one family. But still Dhritarashtra could not accept this fact that Pandava should become king of that kingdom. He considered Pandavas as someone else, and Duryodhana, of course Duryodhana and his brothers were the son of Dhritarashtra only. So to differentiate between Kauravas and Pandavas, in fact in large sense if you understand, the whole family belonged to Kuru Vansha, and that's why even Pandavas were, in a sense, they were Kauravas only. But in order to differentiate Duryodhana and his brothers and Yudhishthir and his brothers, in general we call them Kaurava and Pandava. But this difference not only we have created, this difference was created by Dhritarashtra himself. He says that my people and Pandavas, what they did, and this is a very serious thing. This is a root of all the problems which we face in our life, in our family life, in our social life, in our political life, at international level. So many problems, so many conflicts are going on, and the main thing is because we consider some people as our own, some people as different people. This fighting, this conflict, this differentiation of my people and your people, we versus they, us versus they. So this difference, this is the root cause of all the conflicts. More a person becomes spiritual, more this line of differentiation becomes thin and ultimately it disappears. There comes a stage in spirituality when we don't find difference between our close relatives and other people. A very common example we can see. Someone told me, a doctor once told me, that we usually don't perform surgeries on our own relatives. So एक कोई बहुत फेमस डॉक्टर है, बहुत अच्छा सर्जन है, पर उसका भी कोई बहुत नज़दीक का रिश्तेदार यदि बीमार पड़ता है, उसे यदि सर्जरी की आवश्यकता है, तो एक सामान्य तौर पर ऐसा होता है कि वह डॉक्टर स्वयं सर्जरी नहीं करता है, वह अपने किसी दूसरे परिचित से वह सर्जरी करवाता है। या मान लीजिए एक मजिस्ट्रेट है जो कि बहुत नियम का पक्का है, अपने सिद्धांतों का पक्का है, एंड ही ऑलवेज फॉलोज द रूल बुक एंड अकॉर्डिंगली पासेस जजमेंट। तो ऐसा जो मजिस्ट्रेट है जो किसी अपराधी को जब सज़ा देता है तो पूरा नियमों का पालन करते हुए यदि आवश्यक हुआ तो उस अपराधी को कड़ी से कड़ी सज़ा देने में या फांसी देने में भी नहीं हिचकिचाता है। ऐसे ही मजिस्ट्रेट के सामने यदि कोर्ट में अपराधी की जगह पर उसका खुद का लड़का आकर यदि खड़ा हो, यदि उसके खुद के लड़के ने कोई कितना भी गर्हित अपराध किया हो और वह यदि अपराधी बनकर इस मजिस्ट्रेट के सामने आए, नाउ कैन वी से that this magistrate will be very strict to his own son? So these two examples, this doctor's example and this magistrate's example, these are only for namesake. We can see it in all other fields also. When we go to do our duties, while performing our duty, sometimes we come across such situations where it is very difficult to decide what to do, what not to do. Sometimes we want to favor our own people. That may be against the rules, but because they are our own people, we want to do some favor. Sometimes we come across a situation when there is some unknown person who deserves something and we know he is very much deserves that thing, but we deprive him of that particular advantage. Rather, we pass on that advantage to someone else who is known to us. So these things happen in our own life, and these things happen because we have this differentiation. What Dhritarashtra also is. Dhritarashtra also had this conflict. Mamakaha Pandavascheva, my people and Pandava. He did not consider Pandavas as his own, though outwardly he showed all his affection and all good wishes he expressed towards Pandavas, but inside, deep inside him, Pandavas were not his own people. Only Duryodhan and his brothers were his son. So this difference right from Mahabharata period, even before Mahabharata it was there, during Mahabharata period it was there, and now also it is there. As long as human history is there, human beings are there on this earth, perhaps this differentiation will remain. But we are talking about the people who want to become spiritual. जो व्यक्ति आध्यात्मिक बनना चाहता है उसके मन में इस प्रकार का डिफ्रेंशिएशन, इस प्रकार का भेदभाव, इस प्रकार का अंतर यदि आता है तो उसका आध्यात्मिक विकास संभव नहीं है। पूरे जगत की जो समस्या का कारण है कि हम लोगों को अलग अलग ग्रुप में बांटकर देखते हैं, अलग अलग दलों में बांटकर देखते हैं, और फिर हम किसी एक दल के साथ अपने आप को जोड़ लेते हैं और फिर हमें लगता है कि इसी दल की विजय होना चाहिए, इसी ने सब समय आगे रहना चाहिए। यदि संभव हुआ तो दूसरे दल को यदि समाप्त भी करना पड़े, उनका विनाश भी करना पड़े, तो हम हिचकिचाते नहीं है। दिस इज़ अ वेरी कॉमन एनिमल मेंटालिटी ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर स्टिल possessing, and this is what depicted by Bhagavad Gita through the story of Dhritarashtra and the whole message of Bhagavad Gita. You see, the very first shlok puts the problem before us. 700 shloks are there in Bhagavad Gita, but the very first shlok gives the root cause of the war of Mahabharata. So we have to avoid this differentiation. How we can avoid? By considering that spiritually we all are same. In spiritual progress there comes a stage in Bhagavad Gita itself. We see, I think it is in 6th chapter, where Bhagavan describes the condition of a yogi. Yogi in the sense who has attained some spiritual height, some spiritual illumination he has got. Such a person, Bhagavad Gita or Sri Krishna describes him as Atmau Pammena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati Arjuna Sukham Va Yadiva Dukkham Sa Yogi Paramo Mataha. That yogi is of Param, is of highest quality. Which yogi? Bhagavan says, Atmau Pammena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati Arjuna. What we think about ourselves, if the same criteria we apply to other people also, what I like, other people also may like. What are the things which give me trouble or which I don't like, those things other people also may not like. So like this, if we start thinking, then there will be equilibrium in our temperament, equilibrium in our behavior towards other people. What I don't like, I don't have right to give those things or inflict those things on other people. What I like, I should think that other people also may like. So what behavior, what things give me pleasure, what are the things which keep me in good humor, I should try to provide the same things to others. What I don't like, I should not try to give to others. My own happiness is associated with the happiness of others. My sorrow is also associated with other people. With this thought, if we start behaving in this world, though we may not be spiritual, highly spiritual at this stage, but at least these are the practical ways Sri Krishna has given us, that like this, if we start thinking, suppose there are some words I don't want to hear, then I have no right to tell those words to other people. If there is something or some place which I don't like to go, I should not force other people to go. So these are small things which make us sensitive towards other people. We become insensitive only when we create the difference of mind and other people. You see, very common example. Every day, many of us, of course, sometimes I see headlines in newspapers. I usually don't see TV, etc. But through newspaper, I gather information. So almost whole world, we can say, most of the people read newspapers, and in newspapers we see there are so many news, and rather negative news are more nowadays. So some accident has taken place somewhere, we read it like a very normal incident. But suppose in the same accident, our own some relative or the person whom we like very much, if that person is died, then can we take that news as lightly as we take every day? Every day we read news about many accidents, and we see many people have died also, but it doesn't affect us, it doesn't touch our heart. But suppose in one particular incident, someone whom I like, someone whom I love, if that person dies, if that person is injured, then really I lose my balance. I become very upset. Why? The simple reason is because I get associated with that person. But other people, every day those who are dying, they are not associated with us, so we don't feel anything for them. But a real spiritual person, real spiritual personalities, they feel one with the whole world. I remember an example from Swami Vivekananda's life. After coming from US, Swami Vivekananda was staying in Belur Math in Kolkata. And one night he suddenly woke up, and with very uneasiness, he started walking in the veranda adjoining his room. One of his Guru Bhais, he also woke up, and then he asked Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda, he asked that, Swamiji, what happened? You seem to be disturbed. Then Vivekananda says, you see, I feel as if some great accident has happened somewhere, and because of that I could not sleep, and I am feeling very uneasy. So this Guru Bhai of Vivekananda, he could not understand what Vivekananda was trying to tell. But next day they came to know that in the island of Fiji, perhaps some volcanic eruption was there, or perhaps earthquake was there, and many people had died. And the incident happened exactly the same time when Vivekananda rose from his bed and he felt uneasy. You see, this shows that real spiritual people, how sensitive they become. Anywhere on the earth, anywhere, any corner of the world, something wrong happens, and they feel this sort of uneasiness. They feel that somewhere something has gone wrong. So this is all about spirituality. More we become spiritual, more we take the whole world as our own family. In our culture, in our tradition, thousands of years back it was told, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole earth is like a family. And that's why when we behave, when we deal with other people, whether they are known people or unknown people, we should treat them as our own brothers, sisters, our own relatives. And this also helps us slowly becoming more and more spiritual. So this is one of the problem. While I told in the beginning that by doing our duty we can attain to perfection, but while doing our duty these problems come. We start feeling that someone is different and someone is my own person. That should not happen. And another problem which comes while doing our duty is how to perform a duty, how to do a work. Because whenever we do anything, whenever we do a work, usually we expect some results also. And this is very wrong. Bhagavad Gita is very clear, very particular about it. Bhagavad Gita says that you do work, but don't expect results. The famous shloka everyone of us knows, I think, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbu mate sangostu karmi. Do your duty, for work you have the right. This itself is a very great, very profound statement. Karmanyevadhikaraste. Bhagavan clearly says that you have a right to work. This right to work itself is a great thing. You see what's the difference between human beings and animals? Human beings or other creatures of the world. Animals, however strong, however healthy, however well built they are, you take elephant or tiger or whale or any other use, like even dinosaurs were there on this earth. However strong an animal is, but animal body is only for enjoying the work. They have only worked in Sanskrit or what in common parlance we call prarabdha. That prarabdha bhog is only possible in animal body, in other creatures. But what's the case with human beings? Human beings also have to face their prarabdha, but human beings also have right to do new karmas. This capacity of doing new karmas, this capacity of creating new samskaras, the capacity of eliminating old samskaras, that is not possible for animals. And that's why we see tigers or cow or dog or any animal, what they were thousands of years back, they have the same propensities, same intuition, same qualities even now, and even after thousands of years ahead, we will see same cows, same tigers behaving the same way. But human beings, thousands of years back, they were different. Today they are different. Tomorrow they will be different. Many centuries ahead, if we see human beings, they will be entirely different from what they are today. So this capacity human beings have got. Karmani eva adhikarahate. Bhagavan clearly says that you have right to work. The problem is most of the people do not understand this itself, that we have right to work, and this is something very special about human beings. We have power to decide, we have power to discriminate, we have power to do things as per our wish. Look, animals don't have that freedom. No other creature has that freedom. Human beings have got that freedom. And that's why it is very important to understand while working, कर्मणि एव अधिकार, काम करने में हमारा अधिकार है। और साथ में भगवान बोल देते हैं कि फल में हमारा अधिकार नहीं है। कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते माँ फलेषु कदाचन, फल में अधिकार नहीं है। अब हम काम करते भी है तो हमारे साथ में प्रॉब्लम यही है कि हम अधिकतर फल की आशा से ही काम करते हैं। जो भी काम हम करते हैं उसमें, और फल की आशा भी कैसी कि हम हमेशा सफलता ही चाहते हैं। हम उस काम के माध्यम से अच्छा सा अच्छा नतीजा लेना चाहते हैं, पर सब समय तो संभव नहीं है। प्रैक्टिकली वी हैव सीन everyone faces. Students can face, student understand it very well, क्योंकि जितना पढ़ते हैं उतने मार्क्स सब समय मिलते नहीं है. तो we can't say that we will get marks to the proportion we have worked. बहुत आजकल तो ऐसा होता है कि कितनी भी मेहनत से एग्ज़ाम दी हुई हो और जिसने एग्ज़ाम पेपर चेक करना है वह मान लो मोबाइल पर लगा हुआ है और मोबाइल सर्फ करते करते एग्ज़ाम पेपर भी चेक कर रहा है. देना था 10 मार्क्स, गलती से शायद सिर्फ 1 ही लिखा या सिर्फ 0 लिखा, पूरा 10 लिखना हुआ ही नहीं. बिकॉज ही इज़ बिजी विथ हिज और मोबाइल, ही इज़ बिजी विथ चैटिंग, ही इज़ बिजी विथ आंसरिंग हिज व्हाट्सएप कॉल और ही इज़ बिजी विथ हिज फेसबुक मैसेजेस. तो आई एम नॉट टेकिंग दिस थिंग जोकिंगली. फ्यू डेज बैक आई केम टू नो अबाउट एन इंसिडेंट कि एक लड़की पढ़ने में काफ़ी होशियार थी. एक कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम के लिए उसने शायद तैयारी की थी. एग्ज़ाम अच्छी भी हुई थी, रिज़ल्ट भी अच्छा ही आने की उम्मीद थी, पर रिज़ल्ट बहुत ही ख़राब आया एंड शी कुड नॉट क्वालिफाई फॉर वट एवर शी वॉज प्रिपेयरिंग. आई डोंट नो डिटेल्स वेदर इट वॉज एन एग्ज़ाम फॉर गेटिंग एडमिशन इन सम हायर स्टडीज़ इंस्टीट्यूट और फॉर it was for getting job, but her performance was very poor. Means the marks shown on her mark sheet were very poor and she was so depressed. She committed suicide. And ironically, after her committing suicide, when enquiry was made and it was found that marks in her mark sheet were just got reversed. For example, I don't know exactly how many numbers she got, but perhaps she was to get 91 marks and someone who typed marks in her mark sheet, instead of typing 9 and 1, 1 was typed earlier and the marks shown on mark sheet were 1-9 instead of 9-1. And naturally this poor girl was so depressed, she committed suicide. So there are many such examples nowadays. So we cannot always say that we will get a result as per our work. Very common experience of every human being in any field, not only in the field of education. In all the fields we can say that it is not always possible. There is no hard and fast rule that we will get result as per the work we have put in, the efforts we have put in. Sometimes we get results as per our expectations, sometimes we don't get. And that's why thousands of years back, if we had got this message from Bhagavad Gita, if this thing is taught to students, if this thing is taught to children right from very ripe age, that karmanyavadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana, you have right only to work. Suppose again I take the example of students only because as I know this lecture is basically for young people and young people are mostly students. So when from beginning it is taught that you have right to work, so you only study, don't think about marks. What a profound change, what a tremendous change will come in everyone. In fact, this is an irony that we give very wrong notion to our young people, that you study because you will get a good job. Study is not for getting good job. The purpose of education should be to acquire knowledge. If you have knowledge, definitely you will have value in this world. Definitely you will be able to fill your stomach. Definitely you will get some such work which will give you prestige, money, everything. But when your intention itself is to get job, then what happens? You don't pay much attention to studies. Your intention is only to get more and more marks. And that's what nowadays, in our time, someone getting 60 marks was a great achievement. Nowadays cutoff marks are 100. But still, can we say that all those people who are getting 100 out of 100, they will be successful in life, they will be getting job, they will be earning money? No, there is no such guarantee. And that happens. And then when you don't get that what you were expecting, what happens? Naturally depression comes. Out of that depression, many people even end their own lives. This is very wrong trend we see nowadays. But the problem is, because we have not given importance to our scriptures, thousands of years back we were taught that you have right only to work, not to the fruits, not to karma phala. But then naturally question will come, if we don't have right to fruits, then why should we work? Even in this shloka, this is very often quoted, karmanneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. But we don't give importance to the whole of shloka. The whole of shloka, if we say, it clearly says, karmanneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbu ma te sangosta karmani. Bhagavad Gita, on the one hand it says that you have right only to work. To the fruits, to the result of the work, you have no right. But at the same time, in the same shloka, Bhagavan also says that mate sangosta karmani. Because you don't have any control on result, it does not mean that you should stop working. The very natural reaction that comes to our mind, कि जब काम करने का ही हमारा अधिकार है, फल में तो हमारे अधिकार ही नहीं है, रिजल्ट में तो हमारे कुछ अधिकार ही नहीं है, तो फिर हम काम ही क्यों करें? But Bhagavad Gita says that no, you have to work, and even if यदि तुम्हारे कर्मफल में कोई अधिकार नहीं है, तुम्हारे कर्मफल तुम्हारे काम के अनुरूप नहीं भी हो, तो भी काम करना छोड़ना नहीं है, तो भी अपना कर्तव्य करते ही रहना है. विशेषकर जो आध्यात्मिक उन्नति चाहते हैं, ऐसे लोगों को तो इस बात का और भी अधिक ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि कर्तव्य हमें इसीलिए सिर्फ नहीं छोड़ देना है कि उस कर्तव्य के कारण हमारे मार्ग में बाधा आ रही है, या उस कर्तव्य को करने में हम किसी न किसी कारण से अक्षम हो रहे हैं, या उस कर्तव्य को करते समय हमें अपेक्षानुरूप फल नहीं मिल रहा है, उसका परिणाम हमारे इच्छानुसार नहीं आ रहा है, इसलिए काम करना नहीं छोड़ देना है. भगवान कहते माते संगोस्त कर्मणि, अकर्म में हमें नहीं लगना है, यानी कर्म हमें करते रहना है. तो यह जो सारांश हमने बताया था, पुनः यदि एक बार हम इस पूरे प्रसंग को समझने का प्रयास करें, तो इन माय ओपिनियन, स्पेशली फॉर द यंग पीपल, द एसेंस ऑफ भगवद गीता इज टू डू आवर ओन ड्यूटी. इफ यू आर अ स्टूडेंट, ट्राई टू स्टडी वेल. You see, getting marks or getting good result or getting even good job, that is not the end. That is not the goal. The goal is to study our subject properly, to have in-depth knowledge of what we are studying. When we go to other field, when we are no more students, and then we go in the field of job, or we go in the field of social service, or we start some business, then our duty will change. Then our duty will be to, if we become businessmen, our aim is to do business properly. Money earning or getting lot of wealth, that should not be the goal of business. Goal of business should be to generate money for the welfare of the whole society, for the whole country. You will get your share, of course, but if your focus is only on getting your personal comfort field, then you will adopt wrong means for business, and that is not expected, at least for spiritual person. So अपना काम ईमानदारी से करते हुए, सिंसियरली करते हुए, पंक्चुअली करते हुए, पूरे मन प्राण से करते हुए, we can reach our spiritual goal. That is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And then we talked about two practical difficulties. जब हम अपना काम करने जाते हैं, जब हम अपने स्वकर्म में यदि हम लगते हैं, तो स्वकर्म को करने में एक प्रॉब्लम तो ये आती कि हमारे अपने और दूसरे लोगों का एक डिफरेंस हम जो क्रिएट कर लेते हैं, या वो जो डिफरेंस आता है, कभी कभी हम कुछ गलत तरीके से अपने लोगों को फ़ायदा पहुंचाना चाहते हैं. भगवद गीता कहती है कि ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, सभी को समदृष्टि से देखते हुए काम करना चाहिए. और दूसरी समस्या कि जब हम स्वकर्म भी करते हैं, तो उसके साथ हम फल की आशा कर लेते हैं, उसके साथ हम परिणाम की आशा करते हैं. पर भगवद गीता कहती है कि सिर्फ कार्य करने में हमारा अधिकार है, फल में हमारा अधिकार नहीं है। कहने को तो बहुत कुछ है. द होल भगवद गीता इज अ माइन ऑफ नॉलेज एंड इवन ऑन वन श्लोका we can go on talking for hours and hours, but because our time is limited and I think it is almost 1 hour, I was asked to speak for 1 hour. So in this short time, whatever was possible, I tried to convey in whatever way I have understood Bhagavad Gita. I know there may be different opinions, someone may agree, someone may not agree, but this was what I learned and this is what I got to know from my seniors, my elders, and same thing I try to share with all those listeners who come on this platform. So with this, once again I thank all those people who made it possible for me to share my views on this platform. I convey my best wishes to all those who are associated with this group. We all know Satya Sai institutes are doing a lot of good works, and I believe that all the same frequency people, like-minded people, on individual basis or on organizational basis, they should come together. They should work collectively to make this society, to make this country a great country. With this belief and with this prayer, I end this lecture here itself. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.